Hey, Garrett Stuckey here with the Startup 360 podcast, where I sit down with startup founders and interview them on a 360-degree camera. So you can watch this in VR, be here with us in the interview. As always, please subscribe to the channel on YouTube, like, share with your friends, leave us a comment below, and also if you want to get a hold of me, Garrett at startup360podcast.com or 734-274-9521. Today I have Haroon Bhatti, and
Hello.
first of all, just thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. So, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and we'll get it rolling.
So, as Garrett said, my name is Haroon Bhatti. I'm a business broker. So, we basically specialize in selling small businesses, mostly Main Street, valued under $1 million, and also lower middle market, up to $5 million. We also provide consulting services for people to get set up on planning to sell their business so they can get the most for their business, and also most importantly that it's saleable.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And how did you get started in that?
So I had a startup, and while I was going to school, I was like, let me try to find something on the side to do, pay for school. I didn't want any, student loan debt or anything like that. So I opened up this automotive brokerage company, and it just took off and it did really well, and we're still actually established now. And while I was doing that, I guess after I graduated, I felt a little bit more, too overqualified for the things that I was doing there. It was just not challenging enough anymore. So I had my brother was willing to run the company, and I had one other partner. So they became managing partners, and I just took the role off. And then, I was thinking for a while what I want to do. And, since I was growing up, I was always interested in business ownership, businesses, being around other entrepreneurs. That's really where I feel comfortable, and that's my space. So, I kept looking, and I got into consulting. One thing led to another. Some of my clients wanted to sell their companies. I started looking into business brokerage. Then I found, another company to partner with. It's called Capital Business Brokerage or Capital Commercial Group. And then it just took off from there. And now, primarily, I specialize in business brokerage.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
so, you still own your automotive brokerage then?
Yeah.
And you're just a passive owner at this point for the most
just
part.
a partner, yeah.
And now your current company, how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing business brokerage now 3 years.
Okay.
And it's been coming along great. It's definitely just like any other business. It's definitely tough starting out in the first year. The second year is also pretty tough. So now, third year in, we're starting to catch some major traction in it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, are you also looking at some of these businesses as potential targets for yourself, or what does that aspect look like?
That's definitely in the plans. No, but so I come across so many businesses now, and it's surprising why people are selling. A lot of times people think that someone is selling a business just because it's a failing business. Whereas, there's so many things that come up, people retiring, there's health reasons, just an emergency comes up in life, and people are trying to sell. And when it comes down to, those type of businesses, when we're evaluating them, if they have strong teams and, good product, they've been established for a while, definitely gets very tempting to buy it yourself at that point. But for now, my plan is to, for 5 years, just specialize in business brokerage, don't do any acquisitions personally, just so I can understand the market very thoroughly, see some acquisitions that are happening, and just kind of evaluate these buyers on how their experience pans out, and learn as much as I can from them. I always stay in touch with my buyers. I'm always asking them on what they're doing, how their revenues are looking, what is the different strategies that they're using to grow their business. So right now, it's definitely in the plans, but for 5 years, my plan is just to learn and, just kind of absorb as much as I can within the market.
Great.
Yeah.
So then, what are some things that you're learning? You've been watching for 3 years.
Yes.
Obviously,
yes.
That's most of 5 years, but not quite. So.
Yeah. So one thing that I've concluded is a good team is everything. if without a proper team, you can't really accomplish anything. If there's a dysfunctional team within a company, at that point, to me, there's really no value left in the company unless it's some proprietary software that I can use to, develop something, from scratch. But then at that point, what is the point of an acquisition? If I'm going to have to go build out a whole team and do all the work. So I'm more interested in companies that have a good, solid team and companies that are not up to date with technology. That's my biggest niche that I'm seeing. So I want to find companies that have a solid base, great teams, a good concept, but they're just not up there with the technology part of it, and then just going in there, enhancing their internal processes of the company, trying to find more efficient ways to do it, increase the capacity of what they're doing, and how much more they can do just based off of technology. So yeah, I would say the two things that I'm seeing is, solid teams and technological, potential.
Gotcha. So are you going in there with these companies that are kind of behind? Are you first helping them do that and then helping them sell, or are you more on the side of your buyers where it's, hey, here's this great team, great business, and there are a lot of inefficiencies, so there's that value add piece. Where do you kind of see where do you fall on this, or is it both ways?
So, when we're going in, we're talking to the seller about that. A lot of times, sellers when they're at the point to sell, they're not willing to go and start a new project and refine their company.
Yep.
Unless someone calls us, a year and a half in advance, like, hey, this is what we're planning to do. What do you think we can do to enhance, the presentation of our company, enhance the saleability of the company? But traditionally speaking, most of the sellers we're getting, they're just ready to be out. Hey, what can you get for us? If there's a lot of potential, we can get them a higher multiple on the valuation. But it's more so an opportunity for the buyers to come in, and either if they already own a company and it's a synergistic acquisition, they already have the technology platform, they already have everything ready to go. They're just going to take this team integrated with their current company and their customer base, supplier relationships, and it's most of the time I feel like as buyers are looking at that opportunity and then acquiring it, whereas sellers are not interested in, when they're at the point of selling that, hey, we want to go in and do this, insanely complicated process and then hope for the best at the end.
Absolutely.
So
that makes sense. And so they're revamping technology. What other things are you seeing your buyers do to improve companies after they acquire them?
One thing is there's a lot of companies that investors buy and they're not there as owner operators. They're not going in or actively managing it. So if you can find an owner operator that's willing to go in and put some additional work, develop deeper relationships with the team, there already. That's one of those simplest ways that I see people do so much better after they go in as owner operators, then train a manager, have a proper succession there. And then, of course, you have technology. Synergistic acquisition is huge that I'm seeing, with a lot of these companies. I have, for example, we have an asphalt seal coating company for sale. Been established for 16 years, does great, almost like, I think, 800,000 in revenues, 200,000 in cash flow to the owner. And it's been basically run kind of owner absentee, owner's not really directly involved, but I'm hoping to sell that company to a real estate developer or a company that's involved in more so the commercial side of real estate. For them, if they have multiple properties and they're spending X amount of dollars on seal coating every year, now they can acquire a company, save money on doing it for themselves, and also since they're in the space, they can market it out to other people that are in the same space and increase revenues further.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because I think one of the things, now I talk to a lot of startup founders where they are starting a business from scratch, but there's this whole other world of you can buy an operating business, especially if you can improve it.
Oh, absolutely.
In a way, it's a lot easier. There's market fit. There's there's just so many benefits like that.
Well, when you're buying a company that's already operating, you're going in there initially, you're going to get, we disclose some information. So, of course, it's a very confidential process. So, whenever we have a company for sale, nobody really knows about it besides the general description we're going to give out.
Okay.
Then they come in and, I'm interviewing them most of the time to see if they're even qualified before I release the information. But once all that is done, we release the basic information, which is the financials, company structure. The buyer then makes an offer, and you have between 2 weeks to 30 days to do a due diligence within the company and just trying to understand what's happening in the company and really see the operation. And at that point, if you see things that are red flags, you can always back out of the deal because in the due diligence you're really diving in deep. Of course, there has to be a legitimate reason why you're backing out, but it gives you an opportunity to really dissect the operation and see what's going on, if there's any misrepresentation or not, and then you're going in and acquiring the firm, the company.
Yep.
So it decreases the risk a lot. Because if someone has been operating for 5 years and generating positive cash flow, we can safely assume that they should be able to do that for the next foreseeable future, unless there are some external risks that that are political or changes in the industry. But those are I feel like are easier to mitigate as compared to the startup risk.
Yeah. And what are some other benefits that you're finding in acquiring running companies that maybe are attracting, like why are your buyers coming in and buying up and running companies? So there's the synergy, there's a track record, and are there other reasons that people are buying these companies?
It's just less risky. That's what it comes down to. It's less risky. You can go in there. There's different types of buyers. We have buyers that are going in as individual investors. They sold off a company and now they have nothing to do. Okay. And they have great experience in management. They're business savvy. Now they're going to go out and they're looking for companies that they can buy, revamp, and they're another investor. It's just an individual investor. You have some of the buyers that are looking to buy a job. You look outside, you see, okay, how much can I make? The offers you get, everybody's offering you 65, 70,000, and then you can go and acquire this small business and start making 170,000 a year. You would go into that route preferably as compared to going in and, getting a job that's you're not going to have any growth opportunity, and you're kind of stuck. Yeah. So, yeah, it's there's this multitude of reasons. Like I'm trying to think right now on. It's most of the time, just individual investors, established companies acquiring for synergistic reasons, or someone buying a job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And let's talk a bit about evaluating these businesses and how much what is a business worth and how do you kind of come up with that value.
Okay. So before we dive into that, there is a prerequisite that really determines at the end of the day, from a calculation standpoint, what we're going to come up with a valuation. A lot of businesses that we come across have terrible financials.
Yep.
When there's terrible financials, there is no, we can't value the business. Now, it just becomes an asset sale at the end of the day. If you can't prove numbers to buyers that are coming in, there's nothing to sell. So that's one of the primary things that I tell every single business owner: spend that $300-400 a month with an accountant and get your bookkeeping done. That is one of the best investments businesses can make. Once we have proper financials, from a fundamental standpoint, it's going to be the valuation is going to be based off of the seller's discretionary earnings, which is basically the company's profits, the owner's salary, plus any personal expenses added back, any non-cash expenses like amortization, depreciation, that gives us the seller's discretionary earnings. Once we have that, after that we're going by a multiple of that earning to come up with the value of the business. Businesses that are, I would say probably under $2 million we're going with a valuation of 2 to 3.5 if it's like a really phenomenal company. So, the factors of how we're gonna calculate the multiple is gonna be, comprised of many different factors, which is their earning history, their current location, if it's location dependent business, their competitive environment, the skilled labor that's on staff, business's reputation. So there we have a complete model that we use to come up with the exact multiple that we're going to use on the valuation of that business.
Gotcha.
You know?
And that multiple, just for everybody listening, is you're taking their annual revenue and multiplying that by 2.
So the seller's discretionary earnings. So that's the total owner's benefit that they get off of it.
Okay.
Because we sell businesses with the assumption that it's going to be owner operated.
Gotcha.
Okay. But we have investors that come in that are like, hey, we're going to come up with our own valuation. We're going to add back. We're going to subtract the manager's salary off of that earning amount that we calculated, and then use a multiple because they don't want to be present while they're running the company. Whereas when it comes down to us marketing it, we're calculating it based on the owner's total benefit that they're getting from it.
Gotcha.
Or the owner's compensation.
All right. And in those valuations, what are some other things that will also kind of drive that? So, an obvious one for me that comes to mind is real estate, whether they're owning or leasing. Are there other things like that you are finding that impact a business's value?
So real estate would not really impact, the value drastically. Of course, it's going to add the value of the real estate with the business price. But a lot of times, we've done many companies that, the buyer is not interested in buying the real estate. They're okay with just leasing it out from the current owner and let them retain the real estate, and they just buy the company off it and they come up with a leasing agreement with them. And most of the time, they'll throw in an option to buy it just in case, business is real good.
Yeah.
They can just buy it out. But most of the time, real estate, it makes it more desirable in the market, but it doesn't make it more valuable. Someone might pay a little bit more, but it's not going to be a drastic increase in valuation. But there's one, I guess, unique situation when it comes to startups, right?
Yep.
We're valuing businesses based off of the past earning.
Yep.
And we're going to value it today. We're not most of the time calculating any potential growth or opportunity because we feel that that's earned by whoever buys the company. If the seller wants to take advantage of that opportunity, more power to you. Go in and, just go ahead and take advantage of the opportunity. But if you're not willing to do that, then whoever is buying it is the one who deserves the additional value that's going to come with it. Whereas startups, that works a little bit differently because a lot of times investors are going to be investing in that business. They're not trying to buy this complete company off of them unless they can see some huge potential value in the future based on the app or the concept that they've come up with or the platform. But that becomes a very different type of valuation as compared to a regular business evaluation that we're going to come across every day. These businesses are low risk. They've been operating for a while. They're not some unique concepts. They're just regular businesses. So startups, we've seen some insane multiples. Startups go for 25, 30x multiples of what they're making. Not even based off their earnings, but based off of their revenues. They're going based on, when they're valuing it. But that's a multiple that a buyer comes up with who sees the value and they're calculating their own benefit, discounting it down to today, and then they're making an offer.
Yep.
So that's that would be, I would say, a different factor that comes into play, but that's something that I can't predict, and it's just going out and marketing it to the right buyers and receiving offers.
Yep. So, kind of along those lines, then for somebody starting a business today, whether it's the Main Street asphalt company to a startup, one thing you talked about is make sure you got your financials in order. What are some other things that if I'm starting a business today and I want to sell it at some point, what are the things you're telling me to do when I'm starting that business?
So financials by far the most important, having some type of structure in the company. You know, when the employees, as the company starts growing, you're starting to create additional revenues, there has to be a plan in place on first how, you know, how is the execution going to play out, you know, over a certain period of time. Within that planning, you're going to have personnel planning that has to be done in a very organized manner, where you're having proper job descriptions, you know exactly what each person's role is, and the eventual goal is to kind of eliminate your need in the company as the founder or the CEO of the company if you want to make it saleable.
Mm-hmm.
That's what brings the most money when it comes down to, you know, building out a company and coming up with a value. Other than that, it's you know, having it's a case by case situation. When we're going into a business, you have to do it with a plan and have it organized. If there's a marketing plan, there has to be a plan in place that we as brokers can look at, or, you know, advisors, we're able to look at and see, okay, what has worked and where are you today, and now we can really first understand the value proposition that your company's bringing to the table, and then translate that over to a buyer who's going to be interested in purchasing the company.
Gotcha.
You know.
So one of the things that you said that I actually really like was building yourself out of the business, and that's really what makes it saleable. Is you know, as an investor, I can come in and say, I'm buying this business.
It makes it more valuable.
Yeah.
You know.
So stopped. Oh no, it's going. No. Okay. No, that wasn't on. I'm gonna cut that up. So, what was I gonna say?
To eliminate the owner, your owner's role out of the company.
Okay. So, you're saying that eliminating the owner, in a way, adds a lot of value to a business. Obviously, the clear financials are adding value to a business. Structure, organization, clarity, and those are things. You know, as a business operator myself, it's frustrating because you don't feel like you're making headway on your business.
Yeah,
I have clients. I have, you know, I need to go make some calls. I need sales, right?
Yeah.
And it's just those things really, they don't feel important in the moment, but obviously that's where the real value in a business comes in is, can I explain it? Can I get this organization? Things like that. As you've been in this business, though, are there things that you've started to see and learn that you did not anticipate that are kind of surprising to you? Like, oh, I wouldn't have expected that, or maybe it was obvious looking back, but you didn't notice.
Emotions.
Emotions?
That has been mind-boggling to me, how emotional the business is. You know, it's. I thought we're going to be. You know, I'm dealing with business owners. They're going to be very, you know, objective, coming up with, you know, it's just going to be X, Y, and Z, and you know, move it along. But what's been really surprising to me is how emotional of a decision it is to sell, and also when someone is buying. So, you know, part of my job is as an advisor is it becomes partially a therapist, honestly, at times. You know, if someone is transitioning from doing something that they've been doing for the past 10, 12 years is part of their identity at the end of the day. Yeah. That's who they are, and now they're letting that part go. It becomes very challenging. We have to, a lot of times, look and read between the lines on what's going on with the seller. A lot of times we've had many situations where a seller will, you know, just kind of self-sabotage the deal because you know, internally they're just not ready to sell once they're in the middle of the process. So now we have to go back and kind of remind them on, you know, what's going on and, you know, what your plans are. Of course, we can't force anyone to buy or sell a business. There's, you know, a business broker where, nothing against real estate people, but in real estate, you know, there is, I felt like, you know, there's sometimes that little pressure that, hey, go ahead and do it or don't do it. Whereas with business brokerage, we can't force anyone to do anything because it's just such a huge decision. Of course, buying a house and everything is a huge decision too, but we have to act more as advisors to walk them through the process and, just keep reminding them on why they started this process in the first place. And hey, what is more important to you? If you want to retain the company, we're fine with that. You can retain the company. But, if you are going to call us 2 weeks later and tell us that, hey, you want to sell it again, might as well let's make a wise decision right now on, what we have to do. And the buyers, the same thing. They're nervous. It's still, of course, it's a little bit less risky, but it's still risky. Someone that's going from a job, for example. I have a lot of buyers that are just recently laid off from GM, Ford, Chrysler, and they want to buy a business. That's just, for them, it's like, oh my God, it's just a huge thing that they're about to take on. The uncertainty of it really, makes them paralyzed at times. So we have to just kind of walk them through every step of the way. That was kind of really surprising for me. That's what took me a year and a half to learn.
Just learning how to
just learning how to coach people and finding ways to just keep the deal moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, because as you know, I work in real estate, and I have clients that go through all of those emotions too, and the role of therapist is definitely a big part of any type of brokerage, right?
Well, you're definitely going to be helping me out with my real estate stuff because, man, it's been times, like every time I've gone into the real estate industry, buying a house has been a frustrating experience for me because it's just so high pressure, when it comes down to...
You're spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
You're stressed. You're trying to make a really big decision, just like buying a business. Yeah. And there's a point where when you sign and you cut that check, you're there. Yeah. And if you, on some level, if you mess up, it can cost you, right? Like if you buy like a really bad house for you and you turn around and have to sell it right away, you're stuck, right? Like you've lost money on that transaction. Yeah. Same thing with a business. I'm guessing you have lifelong employees come in and buy a business, and it probably doesn't do as well as it was doing because they're at risk, right? And I'm sure there are others that take to it like a fish in water.
Yeah.
So I don't actually want to. Let's look at the positives. What are some kind of cool successes that you've seen in these transactions, both for the seller maybe and the buyer?
So, I'm thinking about some examples because it's a very confidential business too. So I have to kind of talk in code word on the type of companies, but I've had a few businesses that I sold that were very synergistic to the current operations of what the buyer was doing. To me, that makes me so happy that it was successful acquisition for them. The toughest part that most of the time these buyers are coming across is the ones that are especially doing acquisition is having the team that they already have in place and the new team that's coming in on how to make them work together.
Yeah.
That's always a very interesting transition. And I've seen it's amazing how when people come together, people are generally great people. They love to work with one another, and that I expected that there was going to be a lot more friction when the two teams are being combined, but it turned out to be really smooth, and that just kind of gave me faith in humanity. More so on generally speaking, a lot of times we're anxious that how is this going to pan out, but it's been pretty good acquisitions, and we've sold other businesses too on just individuals getting laid off, buying a business, expecting to make the same money that they were making in the automotive industry, but actually taking it to a whole other level and almost doubling their incomes.
That's awesome.
And especially if they can find something that they love to do, that they're passionate about, then it's just not even a job anymore.
Yeah.
Just you're going to work, hanging out, you love doing what you're doing, and you have no ceiling after that over you. So it's really gratifying to see those type of deals happen.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we're going to transition over to the rapid fire section here.
Okay.
But before we do, was there anything that you wanted to kind of bring up that we didn't touch on? And obviously we'll kind of pitch at the end for you, but like any experiences, lessons, anything at all?
I think we had a pretty wholesome conversation, kind of touched on, we can dive deeper into a lot of things, but I think we touched on pretty much, most of the fundamental parts of business brokerage and buying or selling a company.
Beautiful. So, first question is, what is your best habit?
Best habit, okay. So, well, I'll talk about one of the recent habits I developed. So growing up, I just never was into sports.
Okay.
Of course I was active, always went running, etc. But I never really got into an organized sport. So for the past 2 years, I've really gotten into sports, playing with teams and stuff. That has been almost it's been monumental to, just self-development and what I've learned from, just playing sports. So I think that's been one of my recent habits that I've been utilizing every week, and it's been phenomenal.
Oh, that's
I'm really
cool.
happy with that.
Why did you start that now?
It was. I after I got into the business, I was seeing the dynamics of team players and how it all works, and I got into it just to stay active and just kind of see that everybody talks about that once you play sports you really understand how to work as part of a team.
Yep.
So that was the primary motivation that I got into it, and then I'm just hooked. I love the social aspect of it, the physical workout, the relationships that you develop, and what you learn as your role in a team, and knowing your place on what you have to do within the team to really go to the end goal as a team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what really got me into it, and it's just been one of the best things I've ever done. I don't think I'll ever stop playing organized sport.
Sweet, man.
Yeah.
I like that. So the opposite side of this coin, though, is what is your worst habit and how do you fix it?
My worst habit would be sometimes, I feel like at times that I don't stay in touch enough with my contacts.
Okay.
So, I'm getting a little bit more organized where I have Google Calendar reminders to call people that are important to me in my circle, important to me that I find, as people that inspire me, and I want to have them in my circle, in my life, long term. So I have, it's strange, but I have reminders in there in my calendar to remind me that, call X, Y, and Z this day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I like that. I actually do the same thing.
Yeah.
So I put my friends and family, I have them in my real estate CRM, and I have them, and I put everybody in there now,
Yeah,
and it's I want to make sure I talk to this person at least every 2-3 weeks or every month or every 2 months. Oh, this guy's kind of a jerk, but I should talk to him. They'll be on a 6-month rotation.
That's gonna be okay. The jerky one. Okay, you know what? After this call, you've gone on a 1-year rotation.
It's just somebody I have to keep in contact with, right?
Yeah.
So no, I think it's a really good solution, though.
Yeah, and the thing is, surprisingly, I was reading about a study that most of the opportunities you get, in your career, they're not coming from people that are in your immediate circle, which is your family, friends, but rather from people that you're just touching base every 3-4 months.
Oh.
Yeah, that's where you get, and I evaluated, my own, circle where I get most of the opportunities, and honestly, they're all opportunities from people that, I'll just touch base here and there every 3-4 months, every couple of months, and, just say hi, hello, see how they're doing, and that's where most of my opportunities come from. The closest circle that you have, I feel like, it's haven't been getting too many opportunities from my family or friends, I'll tell you that.
Well, you got to get them to start some businesses.
Yeah, it's, to me that's his personal life, it's not really business.
Yeah,
So.
It's fine. All right, next question. Who has been the kindest person in your life?
kindest, wow. Well, of course, I guess family in the first place. Like, thank God, I have an amazing family. My mom, dad, they've always been extremely, extremely supportive of anything I do. Even though we had a lot of, pressure growing up on that you have to be a doctor or engineer and all of that, but my dad and my mom, they were like, oh, do whatever you want to do. I went to school, ended up getting my bachelor's, ended up getting 2 masters, and after that, everybody's like, oh, you're going to get a job, you're going to start working somewhere. And I told my parents, I was like, I'm not going to work anymore. I'm just going to be an entrepreneur all my life. And that's a scary thought for a parent, too, to just kind of hear that. But they've just been beyond kind to me. My mom is, she's 100% supportive of what I do. My dad as well. And if I had to pick out, like, one single person, that would probably be my younger brother, because he lives with me here in the United States. My whole entire family's they're kind of spread out. One of my brothers in Australia. My mom and dad, they're kind of traveling back and forth to Pakistan and Middle East for my dad's job. But I guess my brother has been, one of the most kindest people to me, caring. I just wouldn't be where I am without him. And then also, a side mention to my business partner as well that I started the business with, amazingly kind person. So those are the 2 people that really immediately come to mind.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It sounds like you have a really great family in life. And
Oh man, thank God.
support
Yeah,
is
huge.
Yeah, it is. And I think that pressure to have a job and for a parent to let that go and be like, oh yeah, Haroon can do this and go for it.
That's humongous.
That's a leap of faith for people, and so I think that's really great that they've been able to do that, and really that's probably contributed to your success, whether you can pinpoint a dollar to it specifically or not. So,
but I think my mom and dad are still afraid that I might be homeless one day because I'm in such a risky, space. Because I know they see the successes and they, they're like, oh, that's really nice. But then they always, I can see they have a little bit of, oh my God, what is this guy doing? He's crazy.
Well, you can always just keep one of the cars that you buy and sleep in that.
Exactly. I'm like, listen, Ma, I got a van now, so
it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. I can never be homeless.
So next question is, what is your advice to the high school graduate, college graduate, and the 50-year-old?
Okay. High school graduate, just picking out, I guess, your major, it's such a cliche thing to say, but do what you love to do, no matter what field it is. So interesting story when it comes to that. So my younger brother, he went into medicine.
Okay.
Went to med school, finished his residency, started his job. Literally a month into his job, he calls me and my dad up. He's like, I can't do this anymore.
Wow.
Go. So my dad was like, listen, I'm going to shoot you if you quit the job. But they were supportive, but it's hard to be supportive when it comes to finishing med school, finishing residency.
Yeah.
And then 1 month into your job, you're just done. You just don't want to do it anymore. So that was a very interesting thing to go through. He called me. I was like, yeah, put your resignation tomorrow. Let's find something else to do. And I asked him. I was like, what do you like to do? He's like, I love businesses and management, just like you're in there. My youngest brother, he's also in management business.
Okay.
So he's like, oh, I want to just do the same thing as you guys do. And that kind of clicked in my head. I was like, oh wow, if you're in medicine, you're actually a practicing doctor. If you go into hospital management or medical management, you can bring just the utmost value to them. So he ended up starting to look for jobs. Ended up getting a job at a huge insurance company working under an actuary, where they're predicting health insurance. They're just predicting health issues so they can come up with a premium to charge, etc. Then he ended up getting a scholarship to Australia. He went there, did his 2 masters, and he did his MBA and Masters of Public Health. And now he's almost done December. He's coming back, and we're excited to see where this journey is going to take him. But that's a prime example of, he went into medicine mostly just because from the pressure around him, the societal pressure. But I give him a lot of credit for being able to, tell us that, hey, you don't want to do this anymore, because I know many people that are still in there and just suffering, 45 years old, and just so angry that they chose that field. So high school, I would tell them to just pick out a subject that make you interested.
Cool.
Yeah.
What about your college graduates and your 50-year-olds? Or
Okay.
kind of the same thing? Or?
Yeah, well, college graduates, when it comes down to the line of work, be courageous. If do what's hard, because if you do what's hard, your life is going to be easy. And if you do what's easy, life is going to be hard. So, if you want to go into a field that seems tough, it's going to be, a lot of growth required, a lot of challenges. Pick the things that you love to do, even though they're challenging.
Yep.
And just pursue that. You'll have, 5 years of just, it's going to be unbelievable. It's going to be many hopeless times. But I think it's the law of the universe that if you just stay at it, you eventually break through. There's just no way around it. You eventually break through.
Yep.
It has to be thought out. You can't be, not aware of what you're doing and just keep, banging your head on the same wall. What persistence is, you look at your outcome. If you can't get it one way, you have to make adjustments and then try again. Not do the same thing and try again.
I like that. My last question is, what is one question you think I should ask every guest?
That's a tough one. Really, that what should be a question that you should ask every guest? That will be the question. No, I'm thinking, it's, I guess I'm always interested in knowing how people got started and stuff, but that's, already a part of your, I guess, interview process.
Yeah.
But I can't think of anything right now. That would be a good question to ask the next interviews. I would say probably how they came up with the concept of whatever they're doing.
All right.
Because there's always a story behind it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of asked you that, but how did you come up with the concept of?
You did.
So,
Well, if I think of a question, I'll definitely let you know.
all right. Well, so you kind of dodged the bullet then a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I'm still thinking. I really want to come up with something, but I just didn't. Yeah, I'll definitely have to take a rain check on that, but I'll definitely get back to you.
All right, sweet. Yeah. We'll tweet that out and on social media and stuff. We'll get some good stuff.
Yeah.
So with that being said, how does the audience help you? How do we get in contact with you?
Well, if you are looking to buy or sell a business, they can reach me directly at my office at 313-925-3333, or they can go to my website as well and just check out the businesses that are out for sale right now, and that's pretty much it.
Beautiful. Yeah. So all that information will be in the show notes. Thank you again for being on.
Oh, absolutely.
And as always, please reach out to Haroon. Please subscribe, share, comment, like, and thank you again, and we'll see you next time.